Hello, everybody. Welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast number 403, recorded live Wednesday, September 26th, 2018, of the Common Era. I am Todd. He is Shane. Shane, which side are you on? Are you on my left or right?
I don't know how.
So this is my left.
Right,
Yep.
so I'm over.
This one makes the L.
I'm over here on this side.
You're on my right.
That's what I would tell you from XSplit, but we know that XSplit lies and XSplit does whatever it wants. So
XSplit is, yes, we have a codependent relationship with XSplit.
I may be on top.
Okay, who knows? So a couple of housekeeping things before we go on. Number one, we've got a couple of sponsors. One of them is SP.Kit, and they have been a sponsor for a while, so I want to give them a shout out. You can go to sp.kit.com or syskit.com. We will be talking about them later as they are sponsoring what I have heard will be one of the best webinars ever in the month of September on a Thursday morning between the hours of 10 and 11 Central Daylight Time. But that will be coming up. I know you're all wrapped with attention. We'll find out more about that later in the podcast. The other housekeeping that I want to mention is a funny story. I was producing last week's podcast, and I have a long checklist of things. It's a very complicated process. There are potions and Eye of Newt and all of this. At some point, though, I render out the video version of it, and it goes into a folder with all the other things. And I have a bunch of PowerShell scripts that package everything up and rename it and upload it and do all these things. And when I uploaded the YouTube version of 402 yesterday, and I went out to check it, it was longer than I remembered. I remember the podcast being like 45 minutes, but the version that was up on YouTube was like an hour and 10 minutes. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense at all, unless it uploaded the whole recording. So what I had done when I rendered the 402 video out, I wasn't paying attention to put it in the 401 directory. And then I ran my PowerShell script, which goes and grabs the newest file and uploads it, except the newest file was the source file. So I uploaded all the CRUD at the beginning, all the CRUD at the end. And so that was out there for several minutes. So if any of you are subscribed to youtube.com/Todd Clint Netcast, you'll notice that 402 went and then vanished and then came again. It's because my scripts were too smart for me. So I put a thing in there now that looks for that, so I know if it's the source file or not.
Man, automation doing, you've had a couple problems with this, right? You telling the computer to do something, the computer being like, hey, Todd, you really want to do this? And then the computer does it, and then you're really annoyed with the computer.
It does exactly what I told it to, and it did exactly what I told it to. So now it checks for that. So, and I guess that was kind of a backdoor thing if you want to subscribe to the podcast and get alerts when we go live and get alerts when we publish the edited versions or the unedited versions. Apparently, you can go to youtube.com/Todd Clint Netcast, or there's links all over on my website for it.
Yeah. Well, and so then speaking of machines doing what you tell them, it sounds like Amazon's now got a microwave that you can just be like, hey, nuke my popcorn and get it done. I mean,
yeah. So this was a funny story we talked about months ago. Kellyanne Conway, one of the people, I don't remember what her position is in the Trump administration, but she was talking about something and she made some comment about how the microwave's listening, and we're all like, oh, shut up, the microwave's not listening, get out. Turns out the microwave's listening. Yeah, we knew it all. Knew it all along. So yeah, last week Amazon released a whole bunch of Alexa devices. And I apologize, we probably should not say her name, but they just all kinds of them. And one of them was a microwave with Alexa built in. And I don't even know what to think about that.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, this is the Jetsons. We want to start talking to machines and having it go. I need Rosie the robot to come around and do things for me. So Rosie's not around. So at least if the microwave can do it on her own, then no big deal.
Yeah, and so they released, I don't know, half a dozen new Echo devices. The microwave was one of them. There's a bunch of them like little plug-in things. Basically what they want is they want Alexa, and I got to quit saying that so people's things don't go off. They want their she who shall not be named in every room of your house. So just wherever you're at, you can say the wake word and do whatever. Yep. And everybody's got a microwave, so they're going to do that. And Stacy in the chat room is saying it's also just an idea, a proof of concept to show manufacturers how easily this can be done. And the thing about this, and this might be a loss leader for Amazon, that microwave is $60.
Wow.
It's a $60 microwave. And it's got all the microwavy stuff. Now, I don't know how much you can do. Like, I don't know if you can say, she who shall not be named, defrost a pound of ground beef, and it will do. I don't know how granular you can get with that. but it does have an Amazon Dash button in there to order you microwave popcorn, which I think is brilliant that they put that in there. So I think, yeah, just you can put it in anything, which is cool and scary all at the same time. I I don't know how multiple echoes work if they both hear the wake word at the same time. So I don't know once we get too many of those together.
I'm guessing they're looking forward to solving that problem.
Yeah, and I know Google has not, or at least not in my case. So I've got a couple of Google Home devices, and then my phone is an Android phone, and it's got the wake word stuff on that. And there have been multiple cases where, like, I'll be in a room with my phone in my pocket, and I will say a command to the Google device in the room, and they will both answer. And so I thought they had fixed that, but apparently they have not. They have not done that.
And that's I don't know. I haven't embraced the talking thing, right? So I don't ever say, "Hey, Apple person," right? I don't ever use that. The other day it triggered when I was doing something else, and I was really annoyed. So I haven't moved to this voice assistant. We have a one of the original Amazon, the big one.
Yep.
And we don't use it. I mean, occasionally the kids will plug it in and they'll use it to, like, listen to music, but it's not plugged in on a daily basis. So I don't know. It's an interesting, I guess either you're a voice user or you're a voice user not.
Yeah, and I think for us, we use it for a few things, mostly music. That's the main use for it. We also use it, probably its primary use, to settle arguments. So we'll be at the table and, what's this, what's that? And be like, Alexa, what's the capital of Bulgaria? C, that kind of thing. We use it to set alarms because we've got one in the kitchen, so we use it for that. We've got an Echo Show. We use that for news and things like that. So it's a little here and there. I'm with you, though. I haven't completely embraced it. And part of it is, we got a lot of people in our house. I think, 6 people live here. And you just got to have everybody be quiet. You're like, okay, everybody, I'm gonna talk to the machine for a second. Everybody hush up. So there's that. Same with my car. Car's got the voice stuff, but just I don't use it very much.
Yeah, I use it to call the wife. That's the only thing I ever use the voice portion in the car for. And the car, or the Tesla for me anyway, is tough, right? Because I haven't found like the published list of the commands that it accepts. So I haven't figured out, like, do I say navigate home, or do I say, take me home, or, what is that series of words that I would probably use a little more if I knew them?
Yeah, so it's funny, Stacy in the chat room must have us on live because when I said that, her Amazon device told her the capital of Bulgaria. So that's awesome.
Oh, well, that's good, because, I was really wondering what it was, but...
Well, now Stacy knows. Yeah, so the one in the Tesla, I don't know if I've found a list, and it might be in the help, but I do the navigate home. I'll do it for music also, just so I don't have to type things in. It's handy, but again, so for me in the car at least, I don't use it when I'm alone because I usually have a podcast or the music blaring, and I don't want that to pause while I'm talking to my car. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not alone, then I don't want everybody in the car to have to stop talking. So.
So when I've had the kids in there, and it has overcome the kids being little chatterboxes. It's done a good job of me still being able to say, call Nicola and one of the monsters in the back making a bunch of noise. It didn't get interfered with.
Yeah. Mark is asking if I have a microwave in my Tesla. I think that's a great idea. I do not. We are a 2 microwave house. We did not intend to be, but we do have. So I can see having one in the car. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. Well, then Mark also pointed out, and that was what I was looking for. I'm glad Mark found it because I didn't find it fast enough. Is that the Amazon microwave is 700 watts.
Yeah.
And if you're a functional adult who's ever bought a kitchen appliance that didn't cost $60, that 1,200 watts is typically what you buy. But I think this is back to the point I tried to make earlier, but you wouldn't stop talking.
That'll happen.
It does happen. Right, their target is not you and I, right? Maybe, right, their target of these microwaves is people's first microwave. And when you buy your first microwave, 600 or 700 watts is a lot, right? Your first microwave might have been 400 watts. So having a 700 watt puts them on the high end, but yet they stayed at the price point of an entry.
The high end of the low end?
Yes. So I think that just kind of shows you where they're targeting, right? They're trying to say with these Alexa, now I said her name. We're trying to say with these devices that they're going after those people that are just moving out for the first time, so they're going to college or they're getting their first apartment, and so they're looking to buy good functional appliances and wall clocks and things that are low or cheap on the price point. So I get it. It's I think they're genius.
Yeah, and Jeff in the chat room said, 700 watts is plenty for nuking popcorn or leftover pizza and stuff like that. It truly is. And the wall clock is another interesting thing. So they made a wall clock that hooks up to Alexa or something over Bluetooth. So it's an analog clock with arms and everything, but it syncs automatically to the internet, which I think is awesome. And that's something I don't mind daylight saving time in general. I understand. I'm far enough north that it makes sense where the sun is. The only thing I dislike about daylight saving time is in the year 2018, when we've got the you can do time over the waves and over the internet. Why I have to set a clock anywhere ever in 2018, regardless of why it changes, just infuriates me. And so I'm glad to see that this is fixing some of that.
No, I completely agree, right? Because like you, when the power goes out, the stove, the microwave, right? I mean, there's like 7 different things in my house that start blinking, and I'm like, in reality, I don't even want time on those things. If I could I think I did make the time on the microwave go away, right? But if I had less things with clocks, I would be okay. But they all wanted to have a clock because that was a default feature.
Yeah.
But they don't stay in sync. They're different. This one's blue. This one's green. This one's orange. This one's a different shade of blue.
Yep. All right, we've hit the Amazon one thing, but Amazon, they are hell-bent on taking over the world, and I think at this point they're going to. I mean, I think it's just foregone. I think they've made all the right moves. They've got all the right inroads. It's Amazon's world. We're just living in it.
All right. Well, this next one is once again Todd Quint committing a crime against humanity. I do not like what you've done here. I do not approve of this next segment. So you tell the people, and I'll try and be nice about it. But I'm going into it as I don't approve.
I did it under duress. I from a philosophical standpoint, I agree with you. It was a hurtful thing that I had to do, but I decided to do it. I published a blog post last week on how to disable the flow button in SharePoint Online. I'm working with a company, and it's a big company, and it's a legacy company. I mean, it's over 1,000 employees, and it's not a startup. It's not hip. It's happening. And they're migrating from file shares, not even SharePoint, but file shares out to Office 365. And they are keenly aware of user acceptance and user training, and they're trying to do responsible things. And their IT department is not all, it's flashy, technology for technology's sake. They're doing a very measured approach. And one of the things that they don't want to have when they roll out initially is flow. Not because of anything that flow does or doesn't do, but just because they know that their help desk isn't going to be able to answer all the things that are going to happen and all of the flow stuff. And the administration story around flow is not completely baked yet. And they're a big enough company that can become an issue. Like, what happens when a user leaves and they had a flow that they owned a flow and things like that. And so they tasked me with finding out a way to prevent flow. And for those of you that haven't used it in Office 365, you've got the little action bar in a list or a library where you can create new things and upload things or whatever. And flow is one of the things in there. So you can click an item and create a flow right in there. Great usage. But making that flow button go away is difficult. And it's funny because of the way all these pieces of functionality are compartmentalized. Flow is another service that runs someplace else. Flow doesn't, it isn't part of SharePoint per se. So even if you go and make sure that nobody has licenses for flow, the flow button still shows up. And that was one of their frustrations, because then the user hits the flow button and then it takes them to flow, and then hilarity ensues because the person can't log in, calls to the help desk, everybody's sad. So for me to get them the way that they wanted to go, it was kind of a two-pronged approach. Make sure people aren't licensed in flow, and then make the flow button disappear in all the site collections. And that's what my blog post was on how to do that.
I'm just sad. I'm just don't even talk about it.
I felt dirty. The good news, though, is there's some PNP PowerShell. We love the PNP PowerShell. Actually, it's SPO PowerShell. It's regular stuff. The good news about it is there is a prescribed way to disable it. So there will be a prescribed way to re-enable it once I get these people excited about flow. And I've already started talking to them about it, things like that. But with the set SPO site commandlet, there is a disable flows, and you've got to set the variable a very specific way. But yeah, if you go to toddclint.com/posh, disable flow button, you can see the whole story. And one thing that I need to go edit this blog post and spell this out. This only disables the button, period. That's all that it does, is it disables the button. If somebody had a flow defined before you disable the button and it's one like on create or something that's auto triggered, it will continue to work. If somebody knows enough to go to flow and create a flow and point at that document library, it will still work. This only disables the button and nothing else.
Gotcha.
That's all that it does.
And now, did you go the extra step though and take away their flow license in the Office 365 user licensing?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Disable the license and disable the button.
There you go. All right. Well, I don't like it, but I think you did a good job doing what your customer made you do. So
yeah, and I've got a couple of other blog posts on some more management stuff on like how to get a list of all the flows in your environment, how to add people as an owner sort of, but really just an editor, so that you can kind of keep an eye on that when people move. The flow administrative story is not where it needs to be right now, and so just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, well, they also, if you go and look in flow, since we're talking about flow, there are now some flow actions built in where you can have flow monitor itself. So there is a flow action for getting all the flows in your tenant.
Oh.
So that's new-ish. I'd say new. It's pretty new. But so there's probably 5 or 7 of those now. So you could have a flow that runs every day to check for, has the list of flows in the company changed, so you can flag the ones that have been created and things like that.
Does the flow that checks the flow report on its own self?
Yeah, it gets real weird. And Flow has a bunch of... So when you start messing with those command lines, it's also very awkward because like there is they took the old SharePoint on-prem approach.
Oh.
There is a action for flow stop. What do you think flow stop does? Nope, you're wrong. What flow stop does is it takes a flow and sets it to be disabled. It doesn't actually stop a running flow. It just takes and makes that flow disabled in the future. I'm like,
the old content database stop and start gag.
Yeah. I shook my head like, how am I using this thing wrong? Why does it stop my flow? 'Cause that's what I wanted. I want a break point out of my flow. That's not what flow stop does. I mean,
why would flow stop do that? That makes no sense.
So yeah, be careful, I guess, as you start to explore those actions. It's sometimes what you think they do because you think stop means stop. This is not. I won't make the reference. But
yeah, let that go.
But it doesn't always do what you think. So.
Yep. Now it's funny you dislike this enough, and there's there's many SharePoint podcasts out there. The SharePoint Dev Weekly podcast. This actually came up in their podcast, my blog post on this, and they also, like you, they love Flow and Power Apps and all those things, and they and again, much like you, they didn't like it, but they understood it. They're until this whole story gets baked out and everybody's kind of on the same terms. They could see a need for my horrible blog post. And so we both know John Levesque, the big PowerShell, or not Power, Flow cheerleader. I don't know what his official title is. I reached out on Twitter and apologized to him personally when I posted that, and he's not speaking to me now.
I mean, you're probably okay. Losing John in your circle is not really...
not a big loss.
You're probably better for it, honestly. But I'll have to remember that if I need to get John to leave me alone. I can just
that's funny stuff.
Write a flow for deleting flows, and he'll be like, "Oh."
Yep. So you can hear the developer folks that are far smarter than me, Waldeck and Vesta and those guys, talk about my horrible blog post on disabling flows.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of people that are far smarter than you, maybe it's a good time to give our shout out to our friends at App River.
Oh, yes, they are also far smarter than me.
Yes.
So if you're a new listener to the podcast, what is it? Because we've been talking about App River for a while now. Give the elevator speech for App River, Shane. Tell the fine folks what they should know.
App River is a reseller to resellers of Office 365, right? So if you want to sell Office 365 to your customers, so that way you can be the customer of record or the what do they call it? Manager of record, support of record, something of record, administrator of record. And you want to start taking advantage of selling Office 365 to your clients, so that way you get a little bit of the spiff, a little of the kickback, but you have to start providing the support and the infrastructure. There's 2 ways to do it. You can do it directly with Microsoft.
Yep.
And if you do
Sounds
that,
complicated.
yeah, it's complicated and it costs you a lot of money. So unless you're going to sell millions and millions of licenses, going direct from Microsoft, probably not the way to go.
Okay. All right.
So instead, you can go to someone like AppRiver, and we kind of like AppRiver. So
Is there anybody like AppRiver though? Don't they sort of stand on their own?
I don't think there's anyone that's been doing it as long as they have been.
No, they've been around forever.
So they've got super support. They've got a bunch of additional tools that helps you do like security audits and upsell your customer on additional security capabilities. So I don't know. I would give AppRiver a good look and check it out. So we've got a link, toddclint.com/AppRiver. Will take you to the page to sign up to get more information. But if you're selling Office 365, I can't do enough justice for how much you should take a look at AppRiver as your provider to resell those licenses.
Yeah, and the thing that so they do a bunch of great things, and they have forever. The piece that I have been paying the most attention to, as we've been talking about it and by poking around their product, is the security part. I know a little bit about security. Like I know a little more than my mom and a little more than my neighbors, but not really enough. And these days we all have to be security folks. And that's one of the things that AppRiver has done is they have bundled and made the security thing and given us good guys a little better of a fighting chance against the bad guys.
They have.
In the chat room, Mark Chrisman has this great idea that we should write a song for this bit about AppRiver to the tune of Moon River. And unfortunately, that just makes me think of Fletch when Chevy Chase is in the doctor's office. Moon River.
Yeah. Tell you what, Mark, you can take the lead on writing that jingle for us. Start your jingle
rough
career.
draft, and we can go from there.
So you said SharePoint Online deployments are surging?
Yeah, I was reading some blogs and all that, and the Redmond Channel Partner website, rcpmag.com,
Sounds fancy.
published a thing a couple of days ago. I can't remember what day it was, and I think this was probably this was a long time ago. This was the beginning of January. So I picked the wrong story, and this was coupled. So Ignite's going on right now, and there was Bill Baird did one of his sessions, and he was talking about all the stats on Office 365. You and I have been around for a long time, and I really love these. We're at the stage of our careers where a lot of our stories start with back in my day, those kind of things. And so these kind of stats, growth and all that really tug at my nostalgia. And I thought this article was quoting some of that, but now as I look at the byline, it was earlier. But I think he had a slide that said 90% of the content in the internet, I think is what his slide said, but I don't know if he meant Office 365 because I wasn't watching the session, that 90% of the content in, we'll say, Office 365 has been created since Ignite 2 years ago. So there is 10 times more content now than there was 2 years ago. I mean, just think of how fast we're creating content. If it is.
Yeah. Yes. Right, those just get to be cartoon numbers. I don't think you can thoroughly wrap your arms around what that really means.
No. And so this blog post that I link and I'll have it in the show notes. You can go to toddclint.com/podcast403 and get all the links for this stuff. But it just talks about how online deployments are surging and we're using more of these tools, and the numbers are just fascinating to me. And I should have gone out and looked for the slide of Bill's. That would have been a better thing. But it goes to show, you and I, before the show started, we're talking about what the rest of our week looks like. And, it's Power Apps this and Flow that and Office 365 this. Oh, I'm doing this SharePoint on-prem thing. And then this, I mean, it just mirrors what we're seeing in real life and what our customers are doing.
Yeah, every time that I do a SharePoint on-prem, I'm like, what is it we're doing here? I mean, God bless them. I understand the people that I'm doing it for, they have to do it. So I'm going to help them do it and do it right. But definitely with these on-prems, right, I'm really preaching, let's design this new on-prem deployment so that it'll easily move to the magical cloud later.
Yeah. Yep. And so and that's kind of the story here. You and I used to make fun of the online, the cloud a lot, and then Office 365 a lot, SharePoint Online a lot. I quit doing that a few years ago. It matured. It earned my respect. And now I'm with you. I love on-prem. It's a lot of fun. But it just feels so limiting compared to the stuff you can do in Office 365.
Yeah, and it's been interesting. So I have one of my Power Apps customers is like, oh, SharePoint. I'm like, maybe. But so with those guys, I'm helping them re-architect their SharePoint Online. So they rolled it out a long time ago, and so now they're like, all right, we want to kind of revamp this. And so we're looking at hub sites and group sites and communication sites. And I'm having to learn a lot of new muscles there too. I didn't truly appreciate kind of how out of touch I was with hub sites and that type of stuff.
Yeah, I've been the same way with this customer I've been at for a couple of months because they're doing all that. And then to this week at Ignite, they're announcing a bunch of new stuff. So I was like 7% of understanding it all, and now I'm back to 2. So it's been tough. But they've done a lot of things. Hub sites are interesting because they finally, after 15 years, fixed one of the problems that we had on Prem, which is how to have discrete locations with unique permissions and all that, but still have the look and feel be the same and be able to do roll-ups well. Because there was just a lot of legitimate reasons why people held their nose and made subsites, subwebs. And hub sites, I think, have mostly fixed that. And once I kind of got my head wrapped around it with hub sites and groups, I'm like, oh yeah, we've got the solution.
Yeah. Another big thing with hub sites I would like is like a cheat sheet of, some things in hub sites when you do it, it happens right now, right? Yeah. You hook it up, navigation, it changes right the second you change it.
Yep.
Other things, like when you associate a new site collection to that hub site, that takes, best I can tell, 24 hours to kind of work its way through the system. The child knows right away that it's part, but the parent doesn't know about its child until like the next day.
Yeah.
And so there's some weirdness there that I'm certain that if I did enough of it, I would just know, oh yeah, if I do this thing, I got to wait until tomorrow. If I do this thing, I got to wait an hour. But I would love a cheat sheet that's just like, here's your guide to when things happen with hub sites.
Yeah, and I think the way that and I'm probably wrong on this, but I assume at this point, everything in the background is search. Everything in the background is the graph.
Fair.
And when I start thinking about, the hub site aggregating news from everywhere and all that, it's all based on search. And it's all based on, when the hub site got the word that it should care about these other things and when the next index ran so whenever I see these lags like that in my head, I try to fill in the blanks by how can I blame this on search? And for the most part, that has reconciled most of it, at least enough that it doesn't keep me up at night.
Oh yeah, it definitely doesn't keep me up at night. But we miss the on-prem days where you just go over and say, start a full crawl right now. I need search to be updated. Do it right this second.
Yeah, so I had a funny story about that. So one of the things that another one of my customers want to do is they have a bunch of MSG files on a file share.
Okay.
And they want to dump, because they're moving everything to Office 365, they wanted to know if the contents of the MSG file would be indexed or not. And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And they're like, yeah, can you link us to a document that says that? Because we've got tens of thousands of these and we have to make sure. I'm like, well, I'm mostly sure. They were not good with that. So I ended up creating so then my thought, and you and I have been fans of this technique for a while. If anybody ever asks us, hey, does this work? The first thing we say is, did you try it? Did you just do it? And so I was having this guy, I'm like, I need to just do it. But then in my head, I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna send myself an email. I'm gonna save it as an MSG. I'm gonna upload it to Office 365. And then if it doesn't show up, is it because it hasn't been indexed yet? Or because it will never be indexed? Because with online, you can't kick the full crawl and watch it go. The answer is MSG files are indexed. And not only are they indexed, but there's a in-browser viewer for them now. So it doesn't kick up Outlook like it does on-prem.
And is Chinese food somehow involved with this?
Not anymore. It gives you headaches.
I was really confused. These
MSG files give me headaches. Yeah.
When you first said MSG file, I really had to stop and think, what is an MSG file? It's an email, in case anyone doesn't know. You're like me and you really just thought about Chinese food and thought about how hungry you were.
It is not monosodium glutamate. I can say that much.
Ooh.
Though I should have put that. That would have been hysterical if I'd have put that in that email. Because I was trying. So, and the thing, I was smart enough because I played this game before. Before I created my MSG file, I went out and searched for all the terms that I was going to put in there so that I would know. But yeah, I should have put something about monosodium glutamate in it.
So my trick for files like that is I use the word puggle. It's easy to spell, but no one uses it in anything. So if I'm trying to seed the index and find if something's in there, I make the file name or put in the contents puggle, and then that's how I confirm, because I know it's going to be not in anyone else's content. That's my weird word.
I can tell you I never use that word.
Exactly.
No, I mean I will never use that.
Well, it's because you're a cat person and you're weird.
Well, those two things may or may not be connected.
Me and Grant the other day on the way to his soccer game, it was like 45 minutes away. And I know you all were all concerned about Grant's soccer schedule. he brought up, he's like, why do some people like cats and some people like dogs? So we had like a 15-minute conversation about how terrible cats were and how great dogs were. It was wonderful. It made my heart warm.
Well, you're raising them wrong, and that's why they'll never marry my daughters.
Oh, the list of daddy issues. It's right there in my OneNote. Don't you worry.
That's probably, there is a limit to the size of OneNote file, so you may have to break that off at some point and start a second one. That could happen. So we've kind of hit it a little bit to Ignite, and there's a lot of things going on there, and we don't have time to talk about all of them. And honestly, I haven't been able to keep up. We're not at Ignite this week. We've got work, and so I've been busy doing that. So I just haven't been able to look at all the things. For the most part, my Ignite experience has been looking at all the pictures that my friends have posted on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of that, and then missing all my friends. So that's been my big Ignite experience so far. But I have seen a couple of things that I did want to share, at least. We would be remiss not to mention. One of them was a bunch of new things that are coming out in SharePoint Online and OneDrive around security and compliance and administration and things like that. One of my clients is doing a lot of things with labels, information security and, discovery and holding documents and things like that. And there are a bunch of places currently in Office 365 that just don't bolt together the way that you would expect them to. So close. And they announced yesterday, I think, that a bunch of those things are being fixed. And so if you're looking at doing, retention, labels, those kind of things, if you've looked at it in the past and been nonplussed with it, go out and take a look at this blog post on Tech Community and kind of see what they're fixing on that, because they've made a couple of things that we've really been wanting. And it's tough because you kind of know these things are coming. You hear conversations in the hallway and things like that. And so you're talking to a customer and they only see what they see. And so they want to make decisions on what they can do today, which is obviously the best way to do it. And you're like, we should hold off until the end of the month on that particular decision. We should wait till, say, the 29th, maybe. Just let's not get in a big rush. And so I was glad to see this came out. But things like, analytics on labels, all that. One of the things that they added, and they mentioned that blog post, is Files Restore, which is that ability to roll every file in your OneDrive back to the point in time before something bad happened, like ransomware. That has now been rolled out to SharePoint and Microsoft Teams, so you can do that. That has been a good one. And then they're just making some more changes to the SharePoint Admin Center. And I haven't seen all of those yet. They haven't shown up in my tenant, but that's coming down the road as well.
Yeah, Ignite has just been so big this year, and there's just been so many monumental announcements all at once that they get lost in the shuffle, right? I mean, like the guy who runs Power Apps, Ryan Cunningham, put out a blog post of like the 417 Power Apps announcements, and I read it. It was just so. I mean, I couldn't take it in, right? It was just so. It's like, can you just pare this down? I'm really dumb, and just give me like, these are the 3 big cool new things. So yeah, it's information overload. How much, how radically things are changing and how fast they're changing. So yeah, be another month before I think we really consume all these announcements from Ignite and put them in a context of why we care.
Yeah, one of the things that they mentioned that is a why we care is multi-geo capability for SharePoint. And I think they've mentioned this before. I think they talked about it last year at Ignite, but I think that's coming out. And this is the idea that in a single tenant, you can guarantee where data is held. So if you have regulatory requirements, this is not a performance thing. This is not I want my people in Europe, stuff to be in Europe so it's faster for them. But this is the Canadian government requires Canadian data to be in Canada, that kind of thing. I think that might be out now. The SharePoint migration tool, the free tool that Microsoft provides to migrate to Office 365, now supports Office or SharePoint 2013, which was an odd exclusion before because it supported file shares, it supported SharePoint 2016, it supported SharePoint 2010. Man, there's just something missing. I can't quite put my finger on it. Boy, 2013. So that's they've got that all figured out now too.
Well, especially because we knew 80% of people were on 2013. That was what made that really awkward.
Yeah. And so I am looking here at the FAQ, and it looks like some of these things will be released to targeted release by the end of this year. So some planning around that. But I'm with you. There's just so much going on. I've been kind of overwhelmed. That was one of the big updates. Another one of the big updates is OneDrive. Your friend and mine has gotten a ton of impressive updates also this week at Ignite. And a lot of it, unfortunately, I don't care about because it was for Macs. And I just don't, I don't care about Macs. And so things like the files on demand and things like that, some of the feature parity that wasn't in the Mac client is apparently out there now.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And the files on demand is just, so I've got a bunch of machines, as you can imagine. I've got laptops and desktops all over the place. And I stumbled across a machine that I hadn't logged into in a while, and I couldn't find some files. I wanted to work on something that I know was in OneDrive, and I couldn't find it. And I'm like, God, I know that it was there. This machine had been up long enough that I had configured OneDrive before files on demand was there. So I was using the selective sync, and I just wasn't syncing the folder that was there. And I'm like, this feels like one step away from carving this on a cave wall. Like, why am I not syncing the entire thing and just letting files on demand handle this? And just, so I spent so much time trying to find this file that would have just been there. But it's such a great feature. Another thing that they mentioned, and I don't know if this is going to be out yet, when the new version of Windows 10 comes out, which I think is rolling out next month, Windows 10 has this thing called Storage Sense where it will clean up when it starts seeing the hard drive get full. It'll start, prompting you to delete files and clear out temp space and all that. It is now adding support for files on demand to that. So when it sees the hard drive in your Windows 10 box getting full, it'll go out to OneDrive and say, what things have we pulled down that are not explicitly marked to keep offline, and start purging those.
Interesting.
And yeah, so I feel like they've thought of everything.
Now, in one of my side companies, it has nothing to do with any of this, they just rolled out, one of their customers just rolled out Office 365. And we can't make any of this work. So I had a call with them yesterday just to kind of hold their hand through some of that. And it was surprising how off-putting for them OneDrive was, right? Because they're like, all right, so it's in OneDrive, and we have this like sync button, but we didn't, they couldn't connect all the dots. So I started them back at the sync client, and we worked through it. And after, 10 minutes of that, the light bulb came on. And, so it's just a reminder also, to everyone that even though we've all been playing with OneDrive for a really long time, it's still new to most people, and helping them understand things like Todd said, let's just sync the whole thing and then let files on demand figure out what to keep and not, or things that we can do that really kind of drive some value for them that, it's not readily understandable for a non-technical person, it turns out.
No, and that's that whole, curse of knowledge thing. Once we figure it out, we assume everybody does it. But I've had that same conversation with 2 customers in the last month. They have, we're moving to Office 365. They have some specific use cases. And I'm like, all right, OneDrive will fix that. And they're like, nope. I'm like, no, really it will. And so you just got to walk them through it, and and it's funny because you can watch the light bulb come on, like you said, and they're trying to find all the ways that it won't fix it, and you know where they're going because you've had this conversation a bunch of times. But it is definitely there. They mentioned a bunch of things about new Office Lens support. I could go on and on about OneDrive. I won't bore you all with that. I know Shane goes to sleep on that. And one other thing that I don't even have in the notes, I can't believe this, is that they announced that that SharePoint 2019 will be generally available next month, October. I think I saw a slide, or I think I saw a blog or a tweet from Bill Baer that said that.
I did not know that. That's news to me also.
Yeah. So that does it. So you wanted to talk a little bit about Power Apps and DNS?
Yeah, I was just going to mention real quick so people don't think they're crazy. Like I've spent the last 12 of 14 hours thinking I was crazy.
You were crazy. It
looks like portions of Power Apps. I lost the ability to create or edit Power Apps last night about 9 p.m. because I was trying to make a new video, and right as I was getting ready to start recording, Power Apps stopped working. So I was like, all right, this is just a sign. So I went upstairs. I drank some adult beverages instead and went to bed.
Always helps.
But I got up this morning. I had the same issue. One of my customers, I was on a support call. Midway through the call, his Power App stopped working. He was up in Boston. I'm in Cincinnati. So it looks like there are some DNS issues going on in the world right now. So I don't know. I haven't seen anyone put their thumb on what's going on. But my ISP's DNS provider was no longer knew how to get to us.create.powerapps.com. His was a completely different provider. He lost it. So I went in and just changed my DNS settings to start using Google's DNS, right? So 8888, and then the secondary being 888.8.4.4. And so that straightened all the problems out for me. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there for you guys. If you're seeing any issues, I mean, you won't see the show for like 6 weeks, so DNS might not even be a thing when this comes out.
8 probably.
But I just want to point that out. Is sometimes you're not crazy. I spent a lot of hours thinking I was crazy, and it wasn't down for the whole world, but apparently some regional DNS servers, for whatever reason, lost the IP address for us.create.powerapps.com. So I don't know. I just want to throw that out there and remind us as we move into this cloud world that sometimes you have to say, maybe it isn't me, maybe it's you.
Yeah, and I think that's a very valuable thing. And I don't use my ISP's DNS. And it's funny, you and I have talked a bunch about our regional Facebook pages.
Yep.
About every town has the Facebook page that complains about how terrible the town is.
Too many pizza places.
Yep. And it's funny because I will see that. They'll be like, hey, is Yahoo down or something? And I'm like, first, is this post from 1998? But then second, a bunch of people, oh, yeah, I can't get to it. I can't. Well, they're all using the same internet provider in town. And the thing that you talked about happened. Whereas I'm using that same internet provider, but I'm not using their DNS and I don't see those things. And DNS is a big deal. And it's funny when you think about, in the Wayback Machine, the whole idea of the internet was to make this global network that couldn't be taken down by any one piece taken down. It was fault tolerant and redundant, and back in the Cold War era. And somewhere DNS goes down and everybody loses access to eBay.
Yeah, right. And if you remember, was it like 2 years ago when somebody attacked the DNS servers and took down half the internet because they had flooded the DNS servers for the whole East Coast of the U.S. And turns out a lot of the internet actually lives in the East Coast of the United States, for better or for worse.
Yep. So check your DNS, 88888844, or the new one, 1111. There's all good.
All right, let's do this community stuff and get out of here.
Get you out of here. Yep, you got lunch date here. So community corner, we don't have much other than SharePoint Saturday New England. That is October 20th in beautiful Burlington, Massachusetts. Oh. You can go down to the show notes at toddclint.com/podcast 403 and find the sign-up sheet for that. For promotion tomorrow, which again probably means 8 weeks ago, I'm doing a webinar for the SysKit folks, the SB.kit folks, on how to prepare to upgrade to SharePoint 2019, which is even more appropriate now that we know that it's going to be coming out in the next month or so. You can go to my blog. I've got a blog post on that that I did not have up because I did not click it. Let's click that and see what that URL is. So you can go to toddclint.com. SysKit SP 2019 prepare, because I could not find a longer short URL, and sign up for that. And I'll be talking about what tools you can use and what things you should be thinking of, things that I've not thought of as I've done upgrades in the past. What are you going to be doing?
So October 15th through the 18th, I will be in sunny, very hot Phoenix, Arizona, doing the Power Summit. So Power Summit is an event that used to be all dynamics focused, but now they've incorporated Power Apps and Flow into it. And I think they're expecting about 7,000 attendees, so a larger conference than you'd expect. So I will be doing a bunch of Power Apps and Flow content out there. I'm going to MC some events for them. They're really getting their money worth out of Shane. They're like, hey, can you wear your DJ outfit? I'm like, well, the leather pants are in the shop, but I'll try my best.
Get professionally cleaned from the last gig. Don't ask.
Yeah. But so if you want to sign up for that, you can save $100 before October 4th. So once again, that's 8 weeks from now. So you probably won't know, but in case you saw it.
It was a fine conference. Everybody loved it, except for the pants.
And then we got another event from you.
Yeah. So October 26th, a month from today, I'm teaching an in-person class in Omaha, a SharePoint and Office 365 administration workshop. Doing it up there for the user group in Omaha, but it's open to anybody, so you can go out there. I have not blogged that yet, but I'll have a blog post on that soon, so you can go to my blog and get that. And we're just going to be talking about all the fun Office 365 and SharePoint administrator stuff that you need to know. And it's I think the price is like $50 or something. I mean, I'm just doing it because I like those folks. So go out there. You can go to omahaspug.org and find out some things about that. But again, I'll blog it here before the day is over, and you can go visit me there. And then next week or the next day, you're going to be doing something.
Yep, I will be doing SharePoint Power Apps and Flow, oh my, at SharePoint Cincinnati. That'll be October 27th. So that should be a fun one, right? I always enjoy just doing those SharePoint Saturdays, especially when I can bring Power Apps and Flow into the mix, because that's what I really want to talk about these days.
Yeah.
And so speaking of Power Apps and Flow, you guys are the first ones to hear this announcement. I had forgotten about it. I literally added it to the show notes right as we are talking.
I'm watching it sink into OneNote as he types, and
But I am doing a Power Apps and Flow training course.
Oh my.
Yeah, so November we will be launching that. That is not how you spell that. Man, we are literally doing this on the fly, folks. But yeah, so November 12th through the 15th, I'm doing like an intermediate class. So you've already built your first Power Apps and Flow, but you really don't know what you're doing, because that's where most people are.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a 4-day online class. So it'll be, a morning session, an afternoon session. There'll be labs, all types of fun stuff going on with that. So check that out. If you're brand new and you want to learn Power Apps and Flow, you've never built one, then the week before on November 8th, I'm doing just a 3-hour class to get you up to speed so you can take the 4-day class the following week.
Gotcha.
So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. And I think, I don't have the discount code in front of me, but if you mention the show, we'll get you a discount of some sort. So just mention the Cloudy Podcast and we'll get you a discount for that training. But I don't know. I'm interested to see how that goes. If you look at the syllabus, you're like, man, that's a stupid syllabus. Then I'd love that feedback, because I literally wrote it 2 days ago. So let me know.
Yep. And go out to powerapps911.com/training and see all about that.
Yep. And then the last thing, goodness gracious, we have a lot of announcements.
You are an announcing fool.
The North American Collaboration Summit. So that's the thing in Branson, Missouri, which makes sense for North America's entire collaboration summit to be in Branson, Missouri. I will be out there doing some Power Apps, a Power Apps workshop, an all-day thing, and then I'll also be doing some Power Apps sessions, hopefully. So if you sign up before November 1st, you can save $50. That's March 14th to 15th, 2019. Woo!
Yep.
So I haven't talked Todd into going with me to that yet, but Branson, Missouri, and Iowa, they're like the same. Like they're kind of.
I've gone to that conference before. It's great, and I just forgot to submit things. I talked to Mark at SP TechCon, and he's like, "You should submit some things," and I said, "I should submit some things," and then I forgot. So
I submitted some stuff yesterday, so it's still open.
Oh, well then maybe I will remedy this. Okay.
Go.
So go to collabsummit.org. It seems cheesy, it seems silly, but Mark Rackley, who is just a goofy SOB as it is, but he puts on a tremendous conference down there. I've been there a couple of times. It is great. If you're on the fence, if you're like Branson, Missouri, for God's sakes, go, because you will love it. He puts on a great show. I'm always impressed. Not that I shouldn't be, but I'm just always impressed.
And about 500 people show up, right? So it's not like it's.
It is a huge
people.
deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
It doubles the city population. I mean, it's.
Yeah, can't say enough good things about Mark Rackley and the Collab Summit. So
right, get us out of here.
You get out of here. Everybody, we will see you next week. Thanks to the chat room. I'll stick around for a little bit. Shane's got an appointment he's got to go catch up to. But thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week.
Bye-bye.